welcome. Bear with us, this is our first podcast. We had this genius idea mainly because we often get asked a lot of questions that we think it's really important that people know the answers to. Like when it comes to finding care and getting support for people, whether it's somebody older, somebody younger, I think it can be a stressful time, but what we want to know is that people are empowered to make the right decision first time. So Emily's had a couple of questions that I know she wants me to answer on your behalf. And so we've tried to kind of prioritise them, but obviously if you've got questions as well, feel free to ask them and we'll do our best to answer them as honestly as we can. The idea of this is not to be biased in any way, but genuinely to share what we've learned as an organisation over the last 40 years with different healthcare professionals as well, to make sure that you're as empowered and as knowledgeable as possible. And this is Emily. I'm Rebecca, by the way.
So when someone's looking for care, I've seen a lot of people write reviews online. Is there anything I should be looking for specifically?
Yes. Well, so there are 5-star reviews can be a good indication, but it's how to spot if that's legitimate and authentic. And there are a couple of different things that can be done to make sure that that is true and translates into practice. So one of the things that I often say to people, and do you know what, we hear it, you've heard it, I know you've heard it because you've said it to me, is, yeah, but they had all 5-star reviews. I don't know what went wrong. And you think, yeah. There are, unfortunately, some organisations out there that can have 5-star reviews. And now that's not saying they're not legitimate 5-star reviews, but it might be that they were for a different type of care to the care that your loved one needed. So it's really important that you kind of ask questions around that. So some of the things that you can do is look at the timeliness. Now, we've been guilty of it ourselves. You might see that there are a number of reviews closely clumped together. Now, that doesn't mean they're disingenuous. It doesn't. It might mean, like for us, for example, we say, oh no, we forgot to go and ask people if they want a review. Now, it's really important. What we do is we generally leave our review cards. So there are things like carehome.co.uk and homecare.co.uk. That's one of the bigger trusted platforms. As you know, we leave our review cards and we put our review links on most of our literature so it's unsolicited. Yeah. And sometimes people become a bit blind to that. So we'll then send out messages to everyone, not to one or two, and then we might get a couple back in that time. Yeah. But when you get them, what's really important to say is, well, do I connect with that message, or is it quite samey message? Is it non-specific? Does it look like somebody else could have written this? But also, if the answer is no, actually, there are really specific things like, you know, there's a member of staff there. So Emily, every time I walk through the door, she stops, she smiles, she gets down to my level, makes eye contact. She says, and I can feel the genuine sincerity. How's your day been? Mm-hmm. How did you sleep? Because you know that frames how my day's going to go ahead. Yeah. So those are some really important things. And so one of the other things that you can look at is if they talk about somebody's perhaps their needs. Now, it's hard to know this from a review score, but you can perhaps, if there's enough of them, get a few themes as to the kind of care that they offer, their philosophy and their ethos. And that's really important that you consider that next to knowing the person that you're looking at care for and if they might fit. And I think that one of the other things is, as I briefly mentioned, making sure that people can leave reviews without it being solicited. You know how many times we go above and beyond, staff go above and beyond. And it'd be so easy that you catch someone on a really good day and you go, hey, will you do me a review? Yeah, exactly that. And they go, do you know what? I'm in a really good mood. I'm really pleased with that one particular thing. So I'm going to do a review right now. And that's based on how they feel in the moment. That's why you won't see many completely 5-star reviews from us. Because we say, let them settle in. Have the good days and the bad days. Yeah. Because that's part of life and we want people to live. We don't want them to be robots, to be perfect. We want them to be real people and have real journeys and go on that journey with them and their family. And I think that's why, you know, you walk into our homes and in the lobbies are the review cards. Because if someone's had a bad day as well, you know, it does happen.
And they still need to be able to voice that.
Exactly that. And they need to be able to do that without fear, because the reviews can be anonymous on those platforms, because they get verified by the platform hosts. It's really important that they feel that they can have that true voice. And so you might see some criticism, Because let's be honest, it's really hard to find care that is one size fits all. It doesn't exist. That's not what care is about. It's not person-centred. So it might be that somebody is not in the right place for them, that their needs might have changed, for example, or they might not have been in the right home to start with. And so the review might not be overly complimentary. And you want to see that, and you want to see how they respond to that. You don't want it to be just taken down or discarded or, well, this or that. That's going to be a little window into the insight of how people respond to change in that organisation. Because we are people at the end of the day. And I think good care companies, like, they run with heart. And so you will see that in the messaging that they put out.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been looking for care for my mum, let's say. I've whittled it down to 3 services that might be appropriate. I want to arrange a home visit. What should I be looking for there?
Okay, so as I say, where are the review cards? If you've gone based on these reviews, now if there are snippets that you're seeing in those reviews, is how true do they ring when you walk through the door? Can you sense that? So I always say to people, we're real homes when you come in. And even with our home care agency, you walk through the door, you should be able to sense the culture of the home, of the organisation. And I think that's really important, because what you want to think about is these are people that have lived a life. Okay, when they come to the service, if they're older people, sometimes they might be like one of our services, we've got younger people from 20s upwards, but they've still lived a life and had a lot that's happened, some good, some not so good. And you want to think, is that a safe space for them? Can they connect in that space? Is the building fit for purpose? And again, you've got to think about the needs of the loved one, because different buildings will be designed around different needs. Earlier stage dementia is different to late stage dementia. So the building's going to be different. Mental health is going to be different to what I kind of refer to as retirement living, where it's light touch care. There's not much personal care. People are quite independent. They just want some companionship and some structure in their day. So you really need to think about the needs, and then that translates to asking the staff, well, what training have you done around this need? So again, I'm only using dementia because it's one of the biggest care needs now, with the statistics growing of, is it 1 in 2 can be dying from or have dementia-related illness that are born from 2007 onwards. So they're quite scary statistics that we need to be real about. And I think there are things like we do, which is the dementia interpreter course, the virtual dementia tour, the immersive empathy suit training, those sorts of things. So yes, there is generic training, but what specifically is the building adapted? So I know one of the things that we're rolling out, we're not quite there yet, but we've got the door closures. So weightless doors, so people can come and go as they please, that they're not banging shut, which causes distress when they're being checked on in the night. Wayfinding signage. But going back to training, sorry, I divert. So that's some of the training, but the most important thing that I think is quite key personally, and I'm not saying other organisations view this, but when you come to work, I can know, and you know, if we're having a good day or a bad day. Well, we've worked together for a number of years. We know each other. And that translates in care. If your staff have been there for a long time and they care, they really care, they will know the subtle changes. If somebody's not very well, if that's physically or mentally, or something might be changing for them, they need a medication review, they've got a urine infection, whatever it might be. So staff retention is so important. You can train anybody, but if they walk out the door next week, that's training that's lost and is irrelevant. The statistics mean nothing, but also if I walk out the door tomorrow and somebody else comes in my place, are they going to know how you're feeling and what you need? And I think for me, that's probably the most important thing. They're the ones that are the eyes and ears that when management aren't there, when you're not there, they're the ones, when the door is closed, how are they treating your loved one? And the fact that they're there a long time means they know them and they care about them, and they will show up for them. Maybe differently to how you do or I do, we're all different, maybe differently to how the family do, but they will love and care for that person.
You talked a bit about the building. Is would you consider, if I walked into a home and it was spotless, to me, why is it so spotless? Is that something we need to be?
I think, again, it depends on needs, and it depends on like the kind of home you go for. So homes, for me, I grew up one of 6. It was chaotic, right? It was a lived-in home, and that's what I say about ours. And you would always want it to be cleanly. You want to look around and you don't want to see dirt and grime built up.
Yeah.
But if you see a bit of dirt, a bit of something spilt on the floor, don't panic, okay? It may have literally just been spilt. You've walked in lunchtime, and rather than making everyone be fed, you want them to maintain independence, so they're feeding themselves. And they might be a bit messy, but guess what? They're feeding themselves and they don't have a problem with it. So I'm not sure why you should necessarily.
Yeah.
It's
the context.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where, don't have that knee-jerk reaction. Try as much as possible to be objective and say, okay, well, what's going on? Is there a reason for it? Is it a lived-in home or is it a show home? Is the building adapted? Is it used? Is it lived in for the purpose of the needs of the people there? Are they free to walk around how they see fit and use that building? And also, have they had input? If they're able to have input into how that building works and is run. I mean, we've seen Ashton Manor, for example, where we've made adaptations where people have come and they've come up with their own ideas that live there. Well, it's their home.
Yeah.
You want to change something in your home, you do. Yeah, exactly. Obviously within reason, but yeah, it's their home, it's lived in, and it's adapted to how, as a community, they want to live.
On that initial visit, what are some ways that I might be able to know how they're going to communicate well with me? I don't live very close by, let's say, and I want to know that I'm keeping abreast of everything that's going on with my mum, what's going on within the service, any upcoming events. How would I know that if there was no relative there maybe to speak to? That would be one option, but if there wasn't? So
I think, firstly, you're right. If you're there and you see other families there, make sure you speak to them, because if they're there, that means that they're quite... Normally we find that families that are involved are quite attentive.
Yeah.
And they will give you a different perspective, because they might see things in a different way to us, in terms of, I guess you've got that shared experience.
Yeah.
It's most likely. So they'll know how you're feeling in a different way to us. We're used to supporting people when their loved ones come in, but they'll give you a different perspective, and they'll give you real. You'll know. They'll either back up what has been said or they'll undermine it, but you then know.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of if let's say, for example, you place your loved one there, like you say, oh yeah, do you know what? This is the home. I know my mum's going to be safe here. I think firstly, you need to be realistic and ask yourself, if you want to be kept up to date with everything that's going on, what does everything mean? Because if I phone you up and go, your mum's done this and your mum's done that, she's really happy with this and she wants you to know this and blah, 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 and you're trying to work, that can get overwhelming.
Yeah. So I need to set my expectations quite clear.
I think, but also really think about, it might be in those first 2 weeks you do want a daily update, and that's perfectly normal, because the first couple of weeks when somebody moves into a new care setting and a new home, it's like when we move home, it's hard to start with.
I imagine it's very different in them first couple of weeks. So what should I expect? They're not going to settle immediately. Like what allowances should I be making?
So again, it depends on that person's individual needs. If we take dementia, people with a dementia diagnosis, and again, every dementia is different, that's really important, and the stages of that are different, and every person's journey is different. But there are some things that we've observed that are more typical. So again, just taking dementia, and I'm talking sort of more mid to late stages, and this can be true of some people that we've supported with poor mental health. The first couple of weeks can be unsettling. And people go, well, mum doesn't know, she's forgotten, she doesn't even know where she lives. Your mum will have some sense, some internal compass that says to her, oh, I'm home. And that compass kind of needs to recalibrate. And it will be routines, it will be freedoms, it will be things that we've all got it, that we do, that we don't even notice we do. Mum will be the same, So those first 2 to 3 weeks can be a little bit tough. And sometimes it can be more confusing when families visit, we've found.
Okay.
But you would know that fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And that is really hard to say that that's the best thing for someone, but what you want to know is a care home or a nursing home or a care provider that's going to be really honest with you about that. Not tell you what you want to hear, but what you need to hear.
Yeah.
So after those initial couple of weeks, normally what happens is, you know, the routine of the person is known, their communication style gets learned, the best way to approach things, because it is different for different people in different settings. Sometimes what's worked before might need to be adapted or changed or kept the same. But it is a bit of a trial and error period. But you can have confidence in when you go to visit by speaking to people that you know that they adapt, that you know that they care. And they're going to do it with real heart, and they're going to pay attention to mum and say, okay, I've noted this, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come back and revisit when mum wants me to. I'll try again. I will, you know, maybe speak to her and maybe I'll distract her while she's eating, because sometimes less is more when it comes to meal times, and sometimes sitting down and let's have a chat and pick up some food. Do you know what? I'll give you, you know, we've done it so many times. I'll give you a chocolate bar. Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
It's cheeky.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you learn all these different ways of adapting, but that's why we need those couple of weeks to really, you know, get to know the person and support them. And that's why sometimes it can be a little bit unsettling. That compass has got to ground. We've got to learn each other. You know, mum's got to know that this is her home and she is safe. Yeah. Because there's so many changes in it. And sometimes people might not want or think they want to go into a home or change. And, you know, families go through that battle all the time, that guilt battle, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, another time. But that's okay. That's quite normal. But it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It means give it time, you know, because you will come to settle. People do come to feel safe quite quickly. They get their routine that they want. And a good home isn't going to go, well, we feed them at this time and they go to bed at this time and they go out at this time, and you can have a structure, but people can do as they wish. If you try and tell me when I'm getting out of bed, I'm going to tell you.
Go well.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's my body clock, that's my routine, and yours is different, and that's because we're different people.
Yeah.
But I think you said as well, like if you're, you know, once you know what you want to know, mum's in and settled, for example, then if you're not nearby, there are lots of things that can happen. So a lot of people now, if they've got digital care plans, so the care plan being a description of how we've kind of got to know your mum, the likes and dislikes, how we approach things. The idea is the ideal care plan. A stranger could pick that up and be able to support your mum. Yeah. And be effective with it. Yeah. So it's like a guide, really. And you should be able to have access to that. And then what happens is they get updated with like notes, care plans, observations, all different people call it different things, but you should be able to see what's going on. And that should be transparent. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, everybody's got social media these days. Hello.
That's what we're doing.
So there's some social media. Pick up the phone. But the main thing is like we do newsletters and stuff like that. But the biggest thing for me is if you were popping by or you were arranging, I would say to you, this is really important, that you should be able to visit that home at any given time without pre-arranging it. Yeah. If people say, no, we need to know. Now, we do say to people, it's good to know because we obviously take people out into the community, and I wouldn't want you to turn up. You've driven 2 hours to come see mum, and mum's down at the beach having fish and chips and gone crabbing. You wouldn't be overly impressed with us.
Might join them.
But, you can catch your tea. But there shouldn't be restrictions on visiting. No. It shouldn't be.
It should be their home.
Yeah, exactly. And you wouldn't phone up and go, Mum, I'm booking in to come and visit in 2 hours' time or next week on Sunday. You might say to her, I'd like to come and see you then, but you don't have to get do you know what I mean? Yeah. You don't book in appointments with your mum when she's in her own home. So why do it just because her home's moved? I think that's really important.
Yeah. So if it turns out my mother actually needs home care in her own home, is there anything you would do differently to what you've already said?
I think you can kind of still do the same things. It's a little bit different. So if you can visit the office, because it should be local to you, I think that's the really important thing, because that's an indication that if something changes, how quick can they respond?
Yeah.
If you want to review, if you want to meet them, if you want to just pop in. So whilst the team downstairs, for example, taking our home care team, while they're quite busy, people constantly pop in, and that's okay. And what you want to do is know that and see. You can feel the warmth. You can feel, trust your spidey senses a little bit. You can feel what they're about. And again, can you see the ability to just leave reviews without it being solicited? So that's again the same thing. When you pick up the phone, why don't you have a few key questions that you can test their knowledge on or scenario on? Again, so you can say to them, okay, well, you say you've got great staff retention, so how do you know that? How do you monitor that? How do you track that? There's lots of things. So, for example, nationally, there's what's called the workforce data set, so you can kind of like benchmark yourself. But they should be keeping an eye on these things themselves because they're really important to quality delivery. And that's something that CQC are really big on. If they come to you, again, get the vibe. I mean, your mum's sat right there. Are they just talking to you, Emily?
Yeah.
Or does mum exist?
It needs to be about mum, yeah.
Because as much as I can, I want to talk to your mum because I'm glad that you've called me and we've met. But as nice as you are, you might make the decision, but if you're a loving daughter, you don't care whether I blow smoke up your body parts.
Yeah.
You care that I'm talking to your mum like a real person that she is and seeing what she's about.
Yeah.
Can we connect?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing, because that's what's going to get the results, is if your mum feels safe around us. And I think the other thing is getting to know a little bit about what their processes are, what training they offer, how do they match people for your mum. Now, I mean, we say things like consistent carers. Now, that's really important, I think, again, because we know we can spot these signs of changes and know different ways to approach things. If you're having a day where, do you know what, I'm not feeling my best because I've slept bad, or I'm upset because I wanted to go and see my son next weekend and he's telling me he's a bit busy because the grandkids are unwell, whatever it might be. It's great if I go and see your mum 5 days a week and somebody sees her 2 days a week, or however the shifts are split. However, I go off because I'm going on holiday. I'm going to the Bahamas, wherever I might be going. I'm going to Lapland. I haven't got any holidays booked, unfortunately. But something happens and I'm not there. Who then knows your mum?
Yeah.
So what we try and do is use 3 or 4 people that really know your mum. And do you know what's really good about this?
What?
Because how you approach something could be different to how I approach things.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily saying we're not following the same care plan, but what I'm saying is we can share lessons.
I was going to go back to your previous point. If the worst case scenario, you do have to go off, if the care plan's written well, it should be smooth sailing.
Exactly that. But you're elderly. You've heard all these horror stories about care providers. You're in your own home and a stranger comes to you at 6 o'clock in the morning and you didn't know it was going to be someone different. And you're thinking, well, how do I know I should let them in and let them see me at my most vulnerable in my safe space? So it's really important that you have that, what we can call in the industry is contingency planning.
Yeah.
That's really important because their mum knows. Okay, Mike's coming to see me today, Emma's coming to see me today, how are you?
Yeah.
And Mike's got a slightly different sense of humour to us, so your mum likes a sense of humour, so he's going to get her into a really good mood using his sense of humour. And that's so important to consistent quality care.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, because then you have more eyes to see if there are changes.
Yeah.
They all know your mum well. They all know what we refer to as the baseline of this is typically how mum is, so that people can check if anything changes. They can make the referral to the GP. They can see if there's an infection going on. They can see if she needs an OT assessment, whatever it might be, whether it's coordinated through the GP, but that your mum is well looked after. And that's so important.
How, in dom care, how can I ensure that mum's getting, is there anything that goes on where she can have some social bit of social life going on because she doesn't get out very much.
So dom care or home care providers, everyone has a different approach to this. And this is what kind of, everybody seems the same, or that it's just home care, and it's completely different, right? There are so many different, I could talk for days on this because it is a real passion of mine that people know the differences, okay? But so for example, for us, and we'd love to do more of it, the bigger we grow, hopefully the more we can do, but there are things like we'll do seasonal events where people can come, and we've had this, put on events in our office. So we don't have a space to charge for, we've got free food and drink, and it's a great way for people to connect, because that social isolation is one of the biggest things to poor mental health, which leads to poor physical health. But it's also getting independence, because the longer people stay in home, the more scared they get of leaving, of a fall, of whatever it might be. And if we can prevent that and hospital visits, that is a great way of increasing not just length, but most importantly, quality of life. So you've heard me say this so many times, we don't want people to exist, we want them to live. So there are, good providers will be able to host, and again, they should be local to you, so they can host events where you can go to. The other thing is, for example, some people, and you have to respect that choice, don't want to leave or can't leave home. Mm-hmm. So if anyone wants to laugh, we've got the Easter Bunny and the smallest, thinnest, most female-looking Father Christmas you've ever met visiting our service users in their home. So we send out like monthly newsletters with quizzes and things like that, and competitions. So it's still that connection, but in a slightly different way. Yeah. So I think that's one of the other things that can be done. But also, there should be the ability that you say to people, if I want to get my mum out a bit more, what could I pay a little bit extra for a few extra calls? And they should be able to respond to that. Maybe not that very second, but within a very short time frame, they should be like, yeah, that's great. We can take her shopping. So for example, have they got wheelchair accessible vehicles to get people out? Have they got insurance to take people out to appointments and stuff like that? So that's a good question to ask. And then, how do they keep people safe? How do they support and promote those community connections? Because for me, I'm going to be really honest here. When a couple of years ago, for the first time in a long time, I started going back out and doing hands-on care in the community. And I completely forgot. I walked in and thought, so-and-so's already up. She's in her chair watching TV. And then I remembered, she doesn't go out. She's too scared to put herself to bed. So she just lives in her chair, in her lounge. So I think it's so important that you consider the extras, not just what is physically possible, what mum physically needs in the here and now, but emotionally, what does she need to give her that quality of life back, to give her the confidence that she can do these things and go and see the outside world. Because don't get me wrong, we're in Britain. It can be raining miserable, but it can also be beautiful out there. Yeah. And the difference that makes to the day is just, you just can't measure it. And I think I'm really glad you asked that question, because it's a really important one.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Rebecca.